right, and welcome to Fastbreak Breakfast NBA podcast. My name is Keith. Got Kelly Dwyer coming up on the episode. The last drop.
K-Don Hoops.
The last drop is with Owen Phillips, but joining me right now, the voice you just heard is John Burr. John, how's it going?
How are you, sir? It
I
has
am
begun.
Ecstatic. It has begun.
That must be nice.
What?
I'm fearful.
In what way?
I think a lot of the things I thought, I know you're not supposed to react to one game, but I'm afraid. I'm afraid of my over-under picks. I'm afraid of my overall sentiment regarding the season as it were, or as it will be. I feel like I'm kind of William Goldman out. Nobody knows anything now.
Well, I didn't think there were many shocking surprises from either Tuesday or Wednesday night. Basically, every result I thought was very reasonable.
I was not ready for the Raptors to look the way they looked.
All right,
a lifetime of thinking the Blazers are going to not be good and then insanely deciding to take the over anyways has continued for me.
Well, let's do one thing. Let's say I'm with you that the Raptors looked way more of a mess. I was too optimistic possibly about them. They had some lineups where I'm like, oh, I didn't know Svi Mikhailuk was going to play a lot.
Right.
No. So let's do this. All right. You know, the last couple of weeks we did our win totals, we did our over unders. If you were allowed one mulligan, John, I'm giving you one mulligan because there actually were some where, again, opening night, quick reaction, I was like, I've made a huge mistake. But I want to know, so what if you got one mulligan where you could reverse one of your preseason predictions on win totals for a team? Is it the Raptors or is it somebody else?
I think it might be the Blazers.
But I didn't think you were that optimistic. You thought they were like high 40s, right?
I wasn't, but like I look at the way the team. So for me, the biggest problem with the Blazers, and this could totally be fixed. This is definitely one of the more fixable problems. Was like the energy of the team was like,
kind of a carryover from preseason. They were terrible in preseason.
Right. It was just like it was a vibe they were putting down. And because I watched so many Blazers games, I feel rather attuned to it. Now this is a team with CJ McCollum, or as you call him now, CJ Muldwine McCollum.
Yes.
And Dame Lillard. So if they want to have a great offense, it's almost an automatic. But is that going to be enough in this dense West anymore? But yes, also Raptors.
I'm not. Yeah, for me, it was the Raptors looking more like a lottery-bound team. Although, I mean, the flip side of that is I watched a little bit of that game because I was very interested in what the Wizards would look like. We were optimistic on the Wizards, and they did look like a very scrappy team. I know we try to dig a little deeper and like look at not the mainstream like national television games, but if I had one over/under to flip, I would consider my Magic optimism getting rid of that because they look like a JV squad.
I think that's for you. That's a windmill slam because that's absolutely going to be an under team.
But the one that I was like the most struck by. This is again the marquee franchise of the NBA. Going back to Tuesday night, I thought the Lakers looked terrible. Like,
I considered them, Keith.
The Warriors are a good defensive team. So the Warriors, you got to give them credit. Warriors are good on defense. LeBron and AD were incredible. My concern is they still
got hosed. Yeah.
LeBron and AD were incredible.
Yeah.
Kent Bazemore was actually knocking down the corner three, and they still got hosed. And it was a horrifying, like, I thought this team was going to win 53 games. Like,
actually, I'm going to go the other way. I'm glad you brought that game up. I almost forgot we were talking about games from days previous. I'll go with the Warriors under. I feel bad about that now. I feel like the Warriors team I saw looked extremely motivated. And also the pieces, which we thought had gotten worse, seemed to fit better. We had been longtime Bielitsa supporters, and he's kind of being used like how he's used like an international play as opposed to like the Kings trying to turn him into like someone to rely on defense, which you can't do with Bielitsa. Like, it seems like they've got guys like when Draymond goes out, the team no longer is completely worthless.
Right. I think someone in our Patreon Slack chat correctly pointed out that the big thing Bielitsa does is when teams are double teaming Steph, he can very comfortably do a 4-on-3. Like if it's 4-on-3, he makes the pass. Last season,
it's a good passer.
Last season, if they were double teaming Steph and you throw it to Kelly Oubre, something bad might happen. And so
it feels absurd that we're making a big deal about Bielitsa, but sometimes it can be something as simple. Like I still stand by the whole Suns fell apart when Dario Saric went out thing. Like sometimes you lose a cog, and it can be a little cog, and the whole machine starts to crumble a little bit. And if the Warriors are able to, just put out lineups without Draymond that can do things, they're gonna win more games than I thought they were by a sizable margin.
I'm not prepared to totally be that excited about the Warriors. We knew they were good at defense. We knew they could compete. I took it as more, for me, troubling about the Lakers. But also go back to the Warriors. This is a game that James Wiseman did not play. Kuminga got a DMP. If those guys aren't playing, that does bump up their potential. Like that does seem to make them better. But they look pretty good. Let's do one more thing. Is there anything like maybe bad or funny that you saw on opening night or in the team's first games that we can wrap up with?
You take a gander at Jonas Valanciunas' line?
Oh my.
I think maybe Jonas owes Ja some of that money he just made. He also didn't get as much money as I thought.
He didn't get that much. He locked that money down.
I kind of think the whole league is like, yeah, you were playing next to a transcendent, attention-getting young point guard, Bubba.
Well, in Jonas's defense,
it was Joel Embiid
up against Joel Embiid. Joel Embiid treated Jonas like Marc Gasol would traditionally treat Joel Embiid. The 3 for 19 from the field in his first.
Didn't see that coming. Didn't see that coming.
Here you go, John. In the last 30 years, these are the centers to attempt 19 field goals in a game.
Is this just Alexej Pokashevsky? Does that
no, he's not counted as a center on Basketball Reference. In the last 30 years, the centers to have at least 19 field goals and make 3 or fewer of their shots. We have Jonas Valanciunas.
Jack Sigma
was the night. Nick Vucevic in 2018.
Okay. Yes. Okay.
Chris Kaman.
Ooh.
Mehmet Okur. Matt Geiger. Rony Cycli.
Wow. That's a clan rally. That is insane.
Let me list off this.
That's like your neighborhood, Keith. What's going on here?
Let me list off this list of white stiffs. Jonas Valanciunas, Nick Vucevic, Chris Kaman, Mehmet Okur, Matt Geiger, and Rony Cycli. What a combination.
That is a beach volleyball tournament. Wow. I didn't see that. I thought maybe like Manute would get one in one of his weird games where he took like 42 threes, but
no.
Dang.
That's some impressive work from Jonas Valanciunas.
You know what? That's right where Jonas belongs to. That's the pantheon. That's the Jonas Valanciunas proper placement as a player.
He's going to bounce back, at least in fantasy leagues.
Just in case you can't see me talking out both sides of my mouth, I do own him in fantasy.
Yeah, no, I'm gonna try to trade for him. My worst thing, this watching League Pass, on the no commercials League Pass where they show you what's going on in the arena. At the Detroit Pistons game, they were giving fans gift cards to the team store, which you're like, oh, that's fun. That's a nice opening night thing. However, in a page out of a dystopian novel, or perhaps a Charles Dickens novel, they were giving these gift certificates were named Gore's gifts after the owner, Tom Gore's. They were giving people gift cards saying, here's the owner giving you script at the company's store to use, like just a PR play to be like, please like our owner. Here's a Gore's gift. Here's a Gore's gifts for you.
Yikes. That's some Willy Wonka golden ticket.
It is
Roald Dahl nightmare fodder stuff.
It is absolutely nightmare fodder. That is psychotic.
That's what I would have to, like, if I was a billionaire, I would be so concerned with everyone hating me, and rightfully so.
Yeah,
I'd be like flying my Zeppelin over town, sprinkling coins.
Yeah, here's your Burr bucks.
Yeah.
Here's your Burr bucks. Please exchange them for a Cade Cunningham t-shirt.
Yeah. Ooh.
That is some PR.
Cade Cunningham didn't play, right?
Dystopian nightmare. Yeah, they're
Oh, that means maximum of my least the player that I think I don't understand why anyone would ever like, maximum Killian Hayes.
I watched some of that game, and technically the Bulls covered, but like
it was close all game.
Yeah,
right?
the Pistons were frisky. I mean, like they were under control, and
I know you've talked about Grizzlies already on the show, but how many more times in the under the Taylor Jenkins regime are we going to have to watch the Grizzlies play stultifyingly and their choice slow pace of play in the fourth quarter and almost ruin everything? How often?
I don't blame I blame the players. I mean,
you think it's the players?
They slowed down. They were missing shots. Some of those shots going. I think they're going to be fine.
We always do that though. It drives me insane.
All NBA teams do that, John.
You're right.
that's just NBA basketball when it gets stressful. Anyway,
it's like the Braves putting in closer Will Smith every game. It's like, why? Oh yeah, you have to.
That's right. Anyway, if you guys out there, as I get John out here, if you guys want to support our program, hang on, make that cleaner.
Sure.
All right, let's do this. Anyways, John, we'll get you out of here. We'll get Kelly Dwyer in the door. Listeners, if you want to support our program, always go to patreon.com/Fastbreak Breakfast. We just started the Pick'em Challenge. If you missed the first couple of days, there's always November where the scoring starts over. We pick each game against the spread Monday through Thursday, and the person with the most correct answers wins a free shirt that we will mail to your house. Also, if you join the Patreon, you get exclusive bonus content. You could submit your questions to the Croissant questionnaire and join the Slack chat where we react in real time to literally everything that happens in the world. Is that fair to say?
Great. So,
yeah. Anyway, John, it's going to be a great weekend of basketball, and I will talk to you next week.
Toodles, give my best to the Don.
All right, thanks, man. That was awesome.
Audio.
What's up, buddy?
Hey, dude, let me turn on my video. It might stay on.
Whoa!
Hey there.
Whoa!
The video goes out sometimes. So okay. if that goes away, just let me know. How we doing?
How are you, man? Good to see you. Look at your backdrop.
Can you see it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. That was a whole entire reason I put it together.
Serial killer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Too lazy for that.
It does seem like a lot of work.
It's half of the baseball game. Just sitting here. Just putting all those up.
I thought you were talking about being a serial killer. It took half of a baseball game to decide it would be too much work.
That's exactly it.
Although I think I followed a Twitter thread one day where they were pointing out the number of times that serial killers were reported to police, and the police would go to the person's house and be like, hey, Mr. Gacy, your neighbors report that there's a lot of weird screaming. And he's like, oh, yeah, some kids were having a party in my house, but they left. Like, oh, all right. Have a good day. Like the number of times that police interacted with Ted Bundy before they did anything. Anyway.
Thank you for not sharing that.
Maybe it's not that hard. Maybe it's not that difficult to be maybe it's not that much work.
No, it is. It is. I did dip in on Genevieve's true crime things from time to time, and it sounds like an insane amount of work. It sounds like you're going to get caught 100% of the time.
I think they're just playing that up. They're just playing that up. It's not as tense as Dexter. You just do whatever you want, and they're never going to find you because they don't care. I don't know. This is going on YouTube, so that'll be great. I'm looking up the most useless stat ever.
That's where I finished last night. Yeah, I didn't even look at box scores yet.
They're ridiculous. You haven't gone behind the box score yet?
No, I have not. I've been Family Guy all week.
All right, let's start. Let's just make this happen. I'm going to edit this pretty heavily if we have a lot of pauses and ums and ahs. Make it sound like we were nothing but magic the whole time. All right, here we go. I'm joined right now by the great Kelly Dwyer. Kelly, how's it going?
It's going great. Happy to be watching basketball again.
Is it, man? Is it like Christmas for those who observe? I mean, last night for me, it was amazing. Wednesday night, the first real night, the first league pass night where I get to watch the Magic play and I get to watch the Kings play. It was heaven.
Because that first night kind of always seems like it's still exhibition season. It's like 2 games. Oh, yeah, but it's still weird. And no one's going to throw anything out. And there's going to be some Twitter theme that's going to dominate the narrative. And yeah, it's been said many times, many years, but Wednesday night is it. It's absolutely it. It's just like, oh, it counts. This stuff counts. It's not the junk that's been on TV for the last month. This actually counts. This is cool.
1 second. I wasn't double recording. Now I'm double recording. Yes, it absolutely is that way. And we also get to do what I like to do, which is what no one should do, is I head over to StatHead and I start looking up like, who's the other player to do this on opening night? Like Chris Duarte's a rookie. He scored 27 points and made 6 3-pointers. That's never happened before. No rookies ever made 6 3-pointers in their first NBA game. So here's the list, Kelly. You're going to love this. I'm going to call you a basketball historian. I feel like you are.
This will be good.
The only other players to score 25 points and have 5 made 3-pointers in their first career game. This is an all-time list of just random dudes. Chris Duarte last night, PJ Washington 2 years ago, and then Donyell Marshall.
Washington. Holy cow.
So there you go. It's not the list of Hall of Famers. It's not like, oh my goodness, Chris Duarte is going to be Luka Doncic. It is a bunch of, I don't know what PJ Washington is going to become, but this is, I think I'm calling it. That's a list of random dudes.
It's 2 power forwards and a 34-year-old rookie. I'm happy with it. It's a strange league, and thank Rick Carlisle for playing as rookie. I'm very happy about that. And
yes.
Let's get it in before the guy has to retire in a year and a half.
Thank you for your age-related joke. Before we go any further, Kelly, we're going to get angry emails if we don't kick off with breakfast. It would be rude of me not to ask you about your breakfast as we do on the show. You've been having any good breakfasts recently?
I've been having simple breakfasts recently. Just, excuse me, eggs over easy. Over easy.
Amazing.
Just don't flip them. Just put a lid on it a little bit, just enough to make it feel like you're not going to become ill. But I like eggs so over easy that the yolk breaks just at the hit of the hot sauce. Maybe even the pepper will be enough to sever.
If you look at it just wrong. Like, yeah, that's the way. Yeah.
Just
if you give it a stern glance.
1.5 furrowed brows sends my eggs a quiver. You know what? I just realized it was probably because I had that Pavement shirt in the 90s with the eggs on it. That was probably the reason why. But yeah, just eggs over easy, and find another protein in there somewhere with some oatmeal or some spinach, or possibly some if you are into animals, that's let's just go there too. But we're already doing the eggs. Why not?
If are you getting good eggs? What kind of eggs you getting? Yeah. Are you getting the eggs from just Kroger? Or are you finding some? You got a farmer's market?
The brown eggs. Get the brown eggs, which I didn't know until I was a year and a half ago, and I was just given some for the first time in my life. It's fantastic that you say this. I've lived in Indiana for way too long. It's not even say how long. I was just given some local eggs. I was just given. My dad calls me up. Hey, you want some eggs? Some eggs? I got egg guy. My dad's not local, but he's got an egg guy. He knows how to he knows how to think on his feet. So yeah, for the first time I got some farmer's eggs that I'm too nervous to go hard boil because I don't know what's going to chirp on out of there.
I got to say, Local Eggs, great band name. I don't know if we've done band names recently, but Local Eggs is pretty good.
Local Eggs. They have that guy that was their drummer, but he was also the bass player in the band that opened for him. I guess he must have the PA or something like that.
Exactly. Going back to the basketball, here is also the most useless stat. I live for this stuff. I hope you at least find it vaguely amusing. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown. You catching that game? The Celtics-Knicks game?
Beautiful.
Ridiculous game. Like as scripted for TV, opening night, ESPN, they nailed it. Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, as far as I can tell, they're the first teammates ever on opening night to both attempt 30 field goals. So is that useless? I mean, I told you it was going to be useless.
I could see that happen in the 90s. I can't see, Stack and AI pulling that off in the first game of the season.
Yeah.
That's a real Sprewell Houston sort of situation. I'm surprised that hasn't happened, but for the slow pace counts. But that's, the 2 overtime thing, that's going to pump it up a little bit. I don't know what your stat cube or your stat yield or your stat or octagon says about the double overtimes messing things up. Here's a thought I had last night. It'll kind of ruin that stat. Why don't they make the second overtime like 3 minutes and then the next overtime like 1 minute? So we don't have to just.
I mean, this has been a thing I've been going for a long time. It really bugs me that the NBA seems to operate on like things divisible by 4. Like we got 12-minute quarters. We got a 24-second shot clock. We got 48-minute games. Why is this grotesque 5 sticking around for the overtimes? Overtime should clearly be either 4 minutes or 3 minutes. I recognize we can divide by 3, but like, it seems like an overtime would be 4 minutes. I mean, you're right. The implementation of the shot clock was because back in the day in overtime, much like high school basketball nowadays in America, there's no shot clock. There's an overtime period, but whoever wins the tip just holds the ball. You stand there. Back when I was reffing basketball in high school in Tennessee, they would just stand still for 4.5 minutes. It's like, why, guys, let's just play.
That still exists. Come on, kids. They got to get over that Mikan fandom.
That's what I want to say. Influence. That's why Coach David Thorpe is saying why the internationals have a leg up in becoming NBA players, because they play with a shot clock from a much earlier age. American kids don't start playing basketball. I mean, I'm speaking way out of my depth here. This is not
that sense of terror that the clock is coming down is imbued in an early age. And, these kids know how to scramble. Yeah.
They know, but it's about making quick decisions, and they are practicing making quick decisions at a much earlier age. I got to go back to the thing you threw out my guy, Jerry Stackhouse, earlier about, thinking he and, AI could have combined for the most field goal attempts. I'm looking at this page right now of the most field goal attempts on opening night. Jerry Stackhouse in the year 2000, he attempted 35 field goals in a win against the Raptors. That's the most field goals on opening night in the last 55 years. No, Grant Hill did it too. They both attempted 35 field goals on opening night. That's those are our most field goals attempted on opening night or in a team's first game, going back to Wilt Chamberlain. So you nailed it with Jerry Stackhouse.
Stackhouse went for it one year. Stackhouse, he went Russell Westbrook in 2000, 2001. He was going to be the first, and then Iverson, without meaning to, just by being himself on the Sixers, actually won the scoring title doing the same thing. But Stack, the first 2 months of the season, was like, hey, I'm going to be the first person since George Yardley to lead this league in scoring and shoot under 42% or something. And Iverson was like, I can do that hungover, and did.
No, that's the famous thing that we talk about a lot on the show is there's the year where my roommate, I think it was 2001. He told me Jerry Stackhouse was going to shoot under 40% for the season. And I was like, there's no chance a guy on that volume is going to shoot under 40%. Yeah. And I bet him that I would get a tattoo of Jerry Stackhouse if he did. And Jerry Stackhouse did do it. He shot under 40% for the year, and I did not get a tattoo. So
good.
I mean, that makes me a bad person.
No, it makes you a man without a Jerry Stackhouse tattoo.
Although
21-year-old.
The older I get, the more I keep thinking about getting that Stackhouse tattoo. It might finally be time. I don't know. Are there any other things?
I would not want a butterfly flap wings Keith Parrish's life. I'd leave everything the way it is. It's going wonderfully. Did you see John Morant last night?
I'm asking me if I saw John Morant. John Morant, who leads the NBA in made field goals. I got to tell you, small sample size stats, Kelly. I am a pig in the proverbial, you know what? It's my favorite thing. Did you see my Grizzlies play?
Yes, I did.
All right. John Morant had 9 layups in the first half as he was being guarded by Larry Markkinen and Chetty Osman. Was that the game plan? I mean, was that the Cavaliers' game plan? Clearly, shooting layups was the Grizzlies' game plan.
JB Bickerstaff's game plan was to yell at a rookie referee and just try to outlast his GM.
He wouldn't let go of the referee. He's abusing a rookie referee. They had to stop the game and tell him to stop screaming at the rookie referee.
And the reason you sign 17 7-footers is so you don't have to play Cedi Osman, who is, I don't know if he is a basketball player, let alone someone who, he's out there and he's doing stuff and it happens, but I'm not worried about Morant because he did it against normal sized people in the second half. That's cool. But the first half,
Cedi Osman might have been the best the best Cavs player
possibly
on Wednesday night. He was knocking down everything.
Gosh, and Sexton still looks the same, and Darius took a terrible 3 at the end of it. And Colin McGowan had a fine social media post last night. He was I just want the Cavs to be a normal Terrell Brandon, maybe a 48-win team someday. Why does it have to be this thing that is just people tripping over themselves or LeBron trying to take people that are tripping over themselves to the championship? It's just we need middle Cleveland.
What was worse for Kevin Love's trade value? Him shoehorning his way onto Team USA and then leaving because he wasn't any good, or him playing basketball on Wednesday night?
It seemed like a good idea, right? You sign him. Everyone plays idea? Nice. The idea back in 2018 to sign him to a giant contract and just go. But I could still, in the worst case scenario, and then it happened. You know what I mean? It's it could have possibly worked out and they could have a year and a half traded him to somewhere else and he would have been someone else's problem, but he would have been happier and he wouldn't have been futzing around at Team USA. And it's just he got the Cleveland disease. He went there and he became Cleveland, and I feel for him. And boy, his book's going to be really good.
My memory when he signed the deal is everyone said, "What in the world are you doing?"
Dumbest deal ever. But just
what in the world are you doing?
I think we can run 6 of these teams, 6 to 7.
There's a few. Cleveland's pieces are okay. Even with the albatross of Kevin Love, and they mercifully only played him 15 minutes. They're okay, but I think you got to swap up the pieces a little bit. The other things that are not okay, this might just be reinforcing my held preseason beliefs. The bottom of this league this year, I think, is going to be a special kind of terrible. I think the Magic barely fielded an NBA team. I had some Magic vibes in the preseason where I'm you know what? They could put some stuff together, and they looked unprepared for the rigors of the National Basketball Association. And then we knew the Rockets and Thunder were they have no intention of winning a basketball game, but they also we might have 3 G League teams in the NBA, and with I think how kind of good most of the other teams are. I don't know if it's flattened lottery odds or teams kind of going for it. Teams like the Kings and the Cavaliers, who are exhausted of being terrible for so long. I think they're just going to try to grab as many wins as they can. Can we get a single digit? Can we get no? It's still so we can't get a 10 and 72.
I pick it every year. Someone was picking the Thunder to be 13. I think I saw some 16s for the Magic. I may have done 18 for the Magic. It's January happens. And, the thing that makes them so ugly right now, there's a lot of things that make them terrible. But, they fell into Jalen Suggs, who is not he might be the best player to draft at that position, but he's not. They didn't need a plucky guy. They needed someone with talent and someone who wasn't a project. And they may have ended up, making out. But in the meantime, so you just get a bunch of plucky guys and you're waiting for the other plucky guys to mend their ACLs and come back. And it's bad, but it's still 14 out of 82, even 14? With a rookie co. Yeah.
There's not, I think there's not normally multiple 60 loss teams in one season. I think the most ever is 3 in a single season. So, they're going to be pushing it. I'm not much of a military interventionist, but the Thunder and Rockets play on Friday night. I think we might need UN peacekeeping forces just to keep everything on track. Maybe we see parents this is a little kid soccer game. You need a parent to walk behind each player, point them towards the goal.
I think you need someone. It's free league pass a week, I'm sure, and you need to make sure that every kid that's a 4 to 3 to 5-star recruit that's 15 to 18 years old right now just does not approach that game at all. Just stays away from it because they'll get so bummed. I'm going to be on this team
to break down for. I mean, it wasn't that long ago.
I want to watch this game.
I want to say like 5 years ago.
Real.
I want to say like it was within the last 5 years. I think on television on like Comcast, League Pass was only allotted like 9 slots. So if there were 11 games, if there were 10 games, one game was like, well, we don't carry that channel. This might be the moment. Them scheduling Thunder Rockets during the League Pass free preview would have never happened under David Stern. That's a commissioner oversight.
Under David Stern, he made every team play on national TV once, which was great because none of us had League Pass in the 90s. So you could see Antonio Daniels and your Grizzlies, then of Vancouver, play on like 1 or maybe 2, if you're lucky, TNT or TBS games a year. But David Stern, he didn't have to deal with 19-year-old Australians trying to turn a team around. So
you're blaming Giddey?
Man. No, he's the only Oklahoma City Thunder anyone can think of right now. Sorry, I was thinking of Thunder Thighs Thunder. I'm gonna watch him. I'm gonna watch him so much. I'm already upset I didn't watch enough of the Rockets. I only flipped over to Minnesota for a second and went because it was one-sided. It'll be fine. There's this every year. I mean, frankly, in terms of entertainment value, I bet I'd put a lot. I put these 2 or 3 teams up against most of the certainly against the process Sixers or any number of just sad sack Pistons or King squads or anything like that.
Bobcats,
Houston. Yeah, well, I mean, no one counts the Bobcat. I don't think anyone has recognized. They're like, certain. It's gonna be bad, but again, Australian and Shea. Oh, Shea.
I mean, Shea's great. Giddey. I like weirdly watched a lot of the Thunder Jazz game when I was just watching the second half of that. I kind of forgot Kings Blazers was on. And I was like, that's a more competitive game. I was riveted just with like, it's hard to judge a guy off one game, but like Giddey was giving me Nick Calathis vibes in one, I love Nick Calathis, but 2, I'm not sure how good that turns out being in the NBA. Maybe he can become more of a, like, I don't know what the huge upside is. The poorest man's Magic Johnson, like a tallish type point guard. But I don't know.
The name I love is Gerald Sasser. It's just what was Gerald Sasser? He was
I don't know who Gerald Sasser is. He on the top 75 list? The NBA greatest 75 players list?
He is exactly what you do there. You go, he's a tall point guard, but you've never heard of him. So did it work out? No, it did not work out for Gerald Sasser.
I guess let's wrap up with this. As I called you earlier, I consider you a basketball historian. Are you comfortable with everything that's happening with the updated top 75 list? It looks like no one's getting booted. Like from the top 50 list. I know I had a couple friends who were circling Bill Walton saying like, when they update this, no chance Bill Walton stays on. Right. And he did make it on. So it seems like, anyway, I'm putting it into your words into your mouth. Do you have,
he was on issues? Yesterday?
Yeah. He was announced that he's a top 75 all time player.
Wow.
So
cool. He made my list. He made 975 only because that was a gift to me. I didn't even know anyone made it. I didn't know it was happening. I didn't know.
50 are out as of this recording. The last 25 dropped this afternoon, I believe. So
it's like in 1996, I had a better like understanding of what was happening. Like it was all out at one time and it happened. And now it's at like random tweets at 5:00 on a Tuesday and they're drip drabbing it out. And it's ridiculous. It's just insane. Rank them, put them all out at once, get a good show where you can get some of these people in talking. And I know it's going to happen again in Cleveland, but like, what a weird and just so safe way to put it out, because like that first list, we're going to put a heavy hitter, Abdul Jabbar up top. We're going to get a recent guy, and that's they parse it out like you can just. It's so bland and safe, and it could have been cool and fun, and
they could have done it with influencers on TikTok. They
could have got my kids, sure. They could have brought them in, and that they're doing it. They're doing it in the lamest way possible, and no one understands the setup. And it appears if Walton and James Worthy and Hal Greer, 3 fine individuals and players, but if they're still on this list, that means your Bob Ryans and are still, all these guys that were around in 1996 who should be voting on the list, that's still there. So I don't know how much, I guess Dominique might make it, but it appears not to be changing all that. I mean, they left Jordan on there. They left, it's crazy.
I'm actually curious if Dominique Wilkins is because this is not something I'm like incredibly interested by. Like people text me questions about it, and I'm like, I can't possibly care. Like I
care a lot.
I mean, like I don't know enough. Like I watched Patrick Ewing as like a teenager, and I still don't know how good he was compared to players I watch currently. Like everyone says he's better than Domantas Sabonis. I take your word for it. But I've seen Domantas Sabonis play hundreds of games. I remember I probably watched, 30 Patrick Ewing games. He was fine.
I liked those games. Those games were actually fun.
Was good.
The Knicks games were rough.
Yeah. I was going to say, if they really had any guts, what they should have done, what I could have cared about, rank the top 75 teams for every franchise.
Ooh.
Oh, maybe you should you do that for your second arrangement? Put that on Substack, Kelly. Top 75 players for every franchise.
Not enough caffeine in the world. I would have to go on trucker pills to finish something like that. It's just weak. I care a whole heck of a lot about this list. It doesn't upset me, but it interests me severely. It's right up my alley. And for them to just sort of drib and drab it out this is supposed to be a hype thing. This is supposed to be the league that understands Twitter and also its history at the same time. And it's just this like weird list of, all rookie. No, that gets more hype and more people talking than this. And we're the whole culmination is we're going to wait for the third day just to see Dominique Wilkins in there. And that's it. That's the most intrigue.
I don't think he's going to get named. I don't know. Maybe hopefully they will add him. It seems like they would.
Even after that, like, what's the big hammer? What's the big PTI lead segment? What's the big thing? Because it was the big thing in 1996. It absolutely was top deal on sports radio, on newspapers, on, maybe not the magazines for a week later, but people talked about this pre-internet. So for this to fail so massively is very disappointing.
Yeah. I'll let you to be disappointed. Again, I
care a lot.
I can't draw. When I found out, like I'm getting into NBA history, like I'm reading about early NBA history. I see all these guys when I'm looking up all these old box scores, and I see Joe Fulks attempting 50 shots in a game, and then I find out Joe Fulks wasn't even on the original top 50 list. Well, then now I don't know what the standard is.
Like, he was more of a he was not your all around goddess like a lot of those other later Bill Sharman types. He was mainly just a gunner. And but yeah, it's a minefield, those old 50. Well, first of all, they're old vets anyway, but it's just all those literal 50 vets. Box scores were just insane.
Yeah.
Wild West. But that's what makes it so great. It's far easier to go Willie Mays to Ichiro than it is to, even like you said, Domantas to Ewing, who played in this century.
Yeah. Speaking of 50s box scores, shout out our guy Jonas Valanciunas going 3 for 19 on opening night. That is a 1950s center box score if I ever saw one. Anyway, Kelly, I appreciate you coming on as always. If you want more Kelly Dwyer, make sure you subscribe to the second arrangement on Substack. The greatest basketball writer living. If we rank top 75, are there dead ones who are better? It's not for me to say. I don't know. I didn't read them. Anyway, Kelly, appreciate your time as always. I'll talk to you later.
See you guys.
All right. Thanks, man. That was awesome.
My camera, I don't know what's wrong with my camera. It went out in the middle of it. I didn't even notice it. It looks like you're like, did you touch anything? Because it says like your video is like voluntarily off on my end. Yeah, it does it all the time.
Okay.
Watch, it'll turn back on. Yeah, there we go.
Okay.
It might be, but like I doubt I'm coughing into it so much that I mean, it's weird. It's I had to address some kids at a college, and it's like, turn back on. I don't know what it is.
It's all good, man. Hey, that was great stuff. Appreciate you. I gotta run.
No problem, man. Take care.
See you, man. Bye.
Cheers.
It's now time for the last drop. I'm joined by Owen Phillips, who writes the F5 newsletter. Owen, how's it going?
It's going well, Keith. How are you?
Doing good. Opening night, the real opening night. I'm not talking about Tuesday night, soft opening night. Was the real opening night? Was it good for you?
Wednesday night is my pickup basketball night. So I missed the early slate of games and caught a little bit of the late games, but I still caught the DeAnthony Melton starting highlights. So very excited about that.
You don't have to suck up to me. We're a national program.
I'm part of the bandwagon. I'm on the team.
I know.
I'm on the team.
You wrote, it's still, I think it says it's the top post on your site. When I go to your Substack, it's still like, it's all about DeAnthony Melton being like the most overlooked what's the term? Just
underrated,
underrated. Yeah.
Underappreciated player in the NBA.
Yeah. It's the quickest way to my heart to talk about him. No, but recently on your site, you wrote this thing that I wish I had seen before I made my season-long over-under picks. You created a chart looking at how the current coaches have performed relative to their under-overs. Their preseason win totals from Vegas, expert win totals, if you will, and how they performed. Is this just a novelty? Or do you feel like there are conclusions to be drawn from this data?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting because when you step back and kind of look at it all in one place, it makes sense. And then there's things that jump out and you're like, wait a minute, that doesn't make any sense. So for example, over the last 16 years, Popovich is 12-4 against his over-under. And that kind of makes sense. He's one of the best coaches of all time. You'd expect him to overperform expectations. But then you see things like a guy like Rick Carlisle, who's, I think, commonly considered one of the best coaches in the NBA, and he's barely 500 against the spread. And so I don't really know what to make of it.
Is this the same Rick Carlisle who hasn't won a playoff series in 10 years?
I mean, there you go. I mean, I think he's like 1-4 against the spread over the last like 5 years or something like that. So maybe, his sun has set a little bit. I think it's more of a novelty than anything, but the reason I wanted to put it together is because so often in these coach of the year discussions, we always kind of turn to who got the most out of their team, who exceeded expectations, because when we can't explain why a team is better than they should be or we expected them to be, I think almost always the coach gets the credit.
So I think what's interesting to me, or what tracks with my commonly, or I guess previously held opinion. If I'm looking at this, again, this is performance of a coach relative to his team's preseason win total. Like the list of guys near the top kind of tracks. You're like, okay, Greg Popovich is 12-4 against his preseason win totals. Quinn Snyder, 5-1. Like, all right, we think of these guys as been good coaches. Like Monty Williams, 5-2. Okay, like I think good coach. There's some that pop out where I'm like, Dwayne Casey, is he always underrated? But he's gone 8-3, and that's with going under his last 2 years. He was 8 for 9, his first 9 seasons. And then you see some other ones where it's like, all right, I don't know, like who the big, like Doc Rivers is 5-10 against his preseason expectations. And you're like, all right, is it just because he's on a big market? And like, so I know there's a lot of other factors to it, but some of it kind of tracks. The Carlisle one's interesting where you've ranked, you've sorted things by the number of wins expected if you add up the Vegas totals over all these years, and then how much over or below they are. And Rick Carlisle is the lowest. I mean, Steve Kerr's low, but there's obvious injury things you can bake into that where you're like, sure. When the Warriors the Warriors missed their win total by like 30 wins, when Steph Curry, that's kind of painful. I'm also seeing Luke Walton going 3-1 against his preseason, so maybe it is all noise, but I don't know. Like, is there anything else on that popped out to you that you're like, all right, that does track with what I might've thought it would have been?
I just think I guess it's kind of interesting when I look at guys like Taylor Jenkins and James Borrego, which I think are both considered two of the hotshot up and coming coaches, and both of them have kind of gone over on their last 2 complete seasons. So not counting the bubble season for Borrego. But overall, like I said, I think there's probably a little bit too much noise there. But the Doc Rivers 5-10 thing just kind of makes me laugh. Like, you would think someone would have looked back on that over his 15-year career and been like, wait a minute, is Doc the best coach for the job?
Well, it also, with that also is in line with Doc Rivers being one of the only guys who, I can't remember what the stats are, but losing numerous playoff series as the higher seed. Like his record as a coach as the higher seed in a playoff series is strikingly bad. Like you should win when you're the higher seed. And so, yeah, there is some stuff there. The other one I thought was interesting was like Eric Spoelstra, who is considered to be one of the best coaches in the NBA. A lot of sustained success, but also his expected wins. It's like he just kind of matches it. He doesn't exceed it. It's always like they look at the talent. And again, we're looking at, when Vegas comes up with these numbers, there's a lot of factors they're taking into account. They're taking into account what the public is even doing. They're just trying to balance the money on either side of theyese lines. But, they're factoring in Eric Spoelstra's a good coach. So maybe he can turn this underperforming roster into 41 wins. And then, I guess it's hard to judge them because of those reasons.
I will say on the Spo one, though, I think maybe this is just my perception, but I don't think he kind of elevated to that tier 1 coach until the post LeBron era of the Miami Heat. And I mean, at least recently in his last, looks like 6 years or so, he's 4-2 against the spread. So maybe that kind of tracks a little bit with his performance and some of those down years were those Miami LeBron years when the team wasn't maybe quite as good as preseason expectations would have hoped.
I also haven't mentioned Mike Malone. Mike Malone on a 5-year streak, of hitting his over. I wish I had known that before. I reluctantly took under, I think 48.5 wins for the Denver Nuggets. One other thing you did on your site is you listed the guys who've played the most games in the NBA without making a 3-pointer. I thought one thing that was incredibly interesting is when you got like past player 5, we're talking about guys who've only been in the league for 1 or 2 years, because I guess essentially everyone now makes 3-pointers. Of that list, I talked about it on the show on Tuesday. Who's your pick for who breaks through?
I mean, the obvious one is just to pick one of those guys towards the bottom, like Paul Reed or something like that. I think he was shooting threes in the G League. But of those kind of top tier guys who have played a lot of games, so we have Ed Davis, Rudy Gobert, Clint Capella, Mitchell Robinson, and Robert Williams. I think I'm going to go Robert Williams. He seems the youngest enough to kind of expand his skill set a little bit, whereas maybe those other guys a little bit set in their ways. Don't expect them to start shooting threes too much.
I assumed like a little lower. You got Precious Achua. I assumed he would launch one. I actually had to check to make sure he didn't shoot one last night. He did not shoot one last night. But I felt like, again, young guy finally getting his opportunity. You assume he'd be empowered by a coach like Nick Nurse. What was Nick Nurse's? Nick Nurse 2-1 lifetime against his preseason over and under. To maybe fire some. Ed Davis, I'm not sure he's going to play. Like, what would it take for Gobert to attempt a 3-pointer? He's just never. I mean, I guess what's his attempts? He's at 7.
Yeah, he's taken 7. I looked at a little bit. Most of those are end of quarter, end of game heaves. So I don't know if he's going to be the one that hits a 3, but and maybe it would just take kind of an FU game from Gobert to start launching from beyond the arc.
Yeah, if things get too far down. Well, anyway, Owen, I appreciate you stopping in. I really enjoy your newsletter. People want to subscribe. It is the F5 at substack.com. And I look forward to you coming on again sometime.
Thanks for having me, Keith.